This is the Narzo 35G from Realme. It's already up for sale in India, but in some parts of the world, it's called the Realme 8 5G. It has the same specs, but just with a different paint job. If you've seen my review of POCO M3 Pro 5G, this phone is the straight up competitor for the best budget 5G phone in 2021. They carry nearly identical specs and features, except for the selfie camera and the display panel. But before we get into those things, I just want to welcome back our subscribers. I make tech videos of all sorts, so feel free to drop a sub to get notified of new content. Now, like I said, the Narzo 35G carries the same offerings as the Realme 8 5G that's officially sold by Realme Philippines. While that one comes in blue and black colors, the Narzo model comes in blue and silver with this racing stripe on the back to make it appeal to gamers. This blue model actually looks a bit darker than the online renders that you see from promotional materials, and I kinda like it since it makes for a stealthy looking phone. It's an all plastic build down to the frame, but the back of this phone has the design underneath the panel, so you still have that seamless feel when using this phone. It's not a hefty device provided that it's packing a 5000 mAh battery and a 6.5 inches display. The thickness and weight are just right, and the tall aspect ratio makes it a bit easier to use with one hand. This one that I have here is the global model, meaning it comes with Google services out of the box. If you're interested in purchasing this phone over the Realme 8 5G, there's a link in the description box for you to see. They're currently running a promo for this phone, which makes it competitively priced with the Realme 8 5G. One caveat though is that this phone is only available in a 4GB model as opposed to the 8GB model of the Realme 8. But one thing that might make you consider this one is the ability to add virtual RAM. So buried in the settings is the option to expand the RAM to up to 3GB. What it basically does is allocate the extra storage space that you have to make apps run a bit faster and prevent them from closing during heavy usage. But based on my experience, with this option turned on, I never really saw those improvements. I still see some apps and even the default launcher reloading at certain times. Now, if you're going to rock a 4GB phone in 2021, I think it's still okay. In-game stutters might be more frequent compared with a phone with more RAM, but as a daily user that regularly checks social media and entertainment apps, 4GB is still fine. However, it's a different story from the rest of Realme UI 2.0. Yes, you still get a bit of bloatware out of the box as well as the usual stutters when navigating the UI, but the majority of the experience is smooth and fluid. For the past year, I've been testing MIUI based phones, and Realme UI, at least on this model, is a breath of fresh air. Things are just more optimized and less likely to fail. The only thing I notice is that going home has a bit of a delay, whether you're using gestures or buttons. And unlike MIUI, gestures on third-party launchers is actually supported here. Part of the reason why Realme UI performs fluidly in this phone is because of the 90Hz display. So you're looking at a full HD 6.5 inches IPS LCD that's capable of outputting up to 600 nits. There's an option to go back to 60Hz to save battery as well as adaptive 90Hz for less battery drain, but in my case I just set it to 9Hz all the way. This one is probably one of the brightest panels I've seen in this category, even brighter than the POCO M3 Pro. I usually found myself around 30% of the brightest slider indoors and around 50% outdoors. That's already saying a lot, especially for an LCD panel. I also like the color reproduction as it's punchy and bright, though you can make it more colorful if you choose vivid in the display setting. Just take note that it can saturate the skin tones a little bit too much. If you watch a lot of Netflix, this one supports full HD playback, so the content is sharp and clear. I've been using my smart SIM card here, but just like most people, there's no 5G coverage or whatsoever in my area. However, I didn't have any problems with my network and 4G speeds while using this global model. You can still use two SIM cards and a micro SD card simultaneously, unlike the hybrid SIM tray of POCO M3 Pro despite using the same Dimensity 700 chipset. But performance-wise, MediaTek's chip remained warm at best while playing games on mobile data connection. Realme is positioning this device as a gaming phone in the 5G era, and if you try to take a look at other performance chipsets with 5G modems, at this price point, this is the best value available in the market right now. The Dimensity 700 holds up pretty well in most popular games today like COD and Mobile Legends, that without overheating. And if you live in a place where 5G is available, it makes the gaming experience faster and more seamless in terms of mobile data connection since you're getting lower latency and faster peak speeds than what 4G offers. If you're worried about 5G network draining your battery, there's a smart option in this setting that allows the phone to switch between 4G and 5G whenever needed. But based on my experience, I think the Dimensity 700 does a great job in balancing performance and temperature. One area where Realme had to make sacrifices is in the audio department. There's only one south firing speaker and it's tinny and overlaps dialogue and background music at the highest volume. But it's a decent speaker for what it is. It's not like it's unusable, and there's a headphone jack should you wish for a better sounding experience. The Narzo 35G comes equipped with a 5000 mAh battery, paired with an 18 watts fast charger in the box. With 90Hz and auto brightness turned on, this phone is still capable of lasting a whole day. I can easily get around 7 hours of screen time, but I can still kill the battery if I play games for hours. The charging speed is decently fast, not the fastest in this category, but 18 watts can get me from 0 to 100 in an hour and a half. Now there's a quirk here to get the fastest possible time to full charge. You need to disable overnight charging in the setting. I found out about this one after the phone required 3 hours to fully charge at first. As for the cameras, the module confuses the user into thinking that this is a quad camera device. However, it's not. You actually have 3 usable cameras here and an imprint that looks like a 4th sensor. So in reality, you only have a 48 megapixel main sensor, a 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel depth lens. And there's also a 16 megapixel selfie camera inside a relatively large punch hole. It's still baffling to see a phone missing an ultra-wide sensor in 2021. I still strongly feel that an ultra-wide camera is better than having 2 small lenses that basically do nothing significant to improve the quality of the camera, but nevertheless, these cameras are decent for the price. Certain users who prefer bright looking shots will definitely like the way the photos and videos look on this phone. HDR goes overboard at times, resulting in the cartoony look of the details in the highlights, but this phone captures photos well more than it misses. Speaking of, portrait mode on objects is a bit of a struggle for this phone. It requires you to capture the object a bit further than you would with a person, and sometimes the foreground separation can be hit and miss despite the presence of a dedicated depth sensor. You can only record up to 1080p at 30 frames on both front and back, but the quality is passable for what it is. It's also stable for the most part, but you do have the option to make videos more stable by toggling a setting. In exchange for better stabilization though is a cropped look, so watch out for that. Similar to the other POCO phone, Realme Narzo 5G is one of the best 5G phones right now. It's still not as competitive as its 4G counterparts if we're talking about a feature per feature comparison, but it did hit the mark of it being an affordable wireless next-gen device. Again, there's a link in the description below if you want to purchase this phone over Realme 8 5G or POCO M3 Pro. So that's it for this one. Drop a sub or a like if you feel supporting the channel. So until the next one, stay safe.